I had a rental property, good neighborhood, rented it out to what seemed like a nice young couple. They paid on time for 8 months, then they just stopped, no warning, no explanation. And what I thought would be a simple eviction turned into 14 months of hell, 14 months of no rent, 14 months of legal fees, 14 months of watching someone live in my property for free while I hemorrhaged money. And I learned that tenant rights laws protect everyone except the landlord. Hey everyone, my name is Leonard. I'm 81 years old, and I want to tell you about my rental property nightmare. Not because I got scammed, not because I made a bad investment, but because I didn't understand what tenant rights really meant. And by the time I figured it out, I'd lost almost everything. Let me take you back to 2019. I was 76 years old, retired, living on Social Security and a small pension. My wife Joan had passed away 3 years earlier, and I had one asset, a rental house I'd owned for 22 years. I'd bought it in '97 for $110,000, fixed it up, rented it out. Over the years, I'd had good tenants mostly. Normal turnover, normal landlord stuff, nothing terrible. The house was worth about $380,000 by then. Had a small mortgage left, about $60,000, and the rental income was $1,500 a month. After mortgage, taxes, and insurance, I cleared about $400 a month. That $400 mattered. With my pension and Social Security, I was making it work. But that extra $400 gave me breathing room. Let me help my grandson occasionally. Let me live a little instead of just surviving. In March of 2019, my tenant of 5 years moved out. Nice guy, Navy veteran, always paid on time, left the place clean. I was sorry to see him go. I listed the property for rent, $1,500 a month, had about 20 inquiries, and I narrowed it down to a young couple, Kyle and Jennifer, late 20s. Kyle worked as a manager at a restaurant. Jennifer was a dental assistant. They had good references, clean background checks, made about $60,000 a year combined. They seemed perfect. Pause, polite, respectful. Said they were looking to settle down, maybe start a family in a few years, loved the house, loved the neighborhood. I should have been more careful. Should have checked more thoroughly. But they seemed fine. And I wanted a tenant. The mortgage payment didn't stop just because the property was vacant. They moved in April 1st, signed a 1-year lease, first month and security deposit, $3,000 total, everything by the book. For the first 8 months, everything was fine. They paid on time, no complaints, no issues. I drove by occasionally, lived about 40 minutes away, and the property looked good, yard maintained. No problems. Then December came. Rent was due on the 1st. December 5th, I still hadn't received payment. I called Kyle. He said, "Oh, sorry, Leonard. We had some unexpected expenses. I'll get it to you by the 10th. Okay, not ideal, but things happen. People have emergencies. December 10th came. No payment. I called again. Kyle didn't answer. I left a message. December 15th, still nothing. I drove to the property. Both cars were in the driveway. They were home. I knocked, no answer. I called Kyle from the driveway, watched his phone light up through the window. He ignored it, exhaled sharply. That's when I knew something was wrong. I sent a certified letter, pay or quit notice. 3 days to pay the rent or vacate. That's what the law required, 3 days. They didn't pay, didn't vacate, didn't respond. So I filed for eviction, went to the courthouse, filled out the paperwork, paid the filing fee, $250. The clerk said it would take about 2 weeks to get a court date. I thought, okay, 2 weeks. Then we go to court. Judge orders them out. They leave. I re-rent the property. Maybe lose 2 months of rent total. Not great, but manageable. I was so naive. The court date was set for January 15th. They had to be served with the eviction notice first. Sheriff's deputy served them on December 28th. January 15th came. I showed up to court. They didn't. I had all my documentation, the lease, the pay or quit notice, proof they hadn't paid. The judge ruled in my favor, ordered them to vacate by January 22nd, 7 days. I thought, finally, this nightmare is almost over. January 22nd came. I drove to the property. Both cars still there, curtains still up. Why I hadn't left. I called my lawyer. He said I needed to get a writ of possession, go back to court, get the sheriff to physically remove them. Another $200 in fees, another hearing scheduled for February 5th. February 5th, I got the writ of possession. Sheriff's office said they'd schedule the eviction, could take 2 to 3 weeks. February 27th, sheriff showed up to evict them. Knocked on the door. Kyle answered, and he had papers from legal aid, filing a counterclaim, claiming the property had habitability issues, broken heater, mold, code violations. None of it was true. The house was in good condition. Heater worked fine, no mold. But now there was a counterclaim, and the sheriff said they couldn't evict until the counterclaim was resolved. Back to court. Another hearing scheduled. March 18th. We're now 4.5 months into this. 4.5 months of no rent. And I'm still paying the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, everything. Hemorrhaging money. My lawyer said the counterclaim was clearly bogus. Said the judge would see through it. But we had to go through the process. Had to let them present their case. March 18th. Court hearing. Kyle and Jennifer showed up with a legal aid attorney. Presented photos, they claim. D showed mold and damage, claimed the heater hadn't worked all winter. I had my own evidence, recent inspection report showing everything was fine, photos from my last walkthrough in November, text messages from Kyle in October saying everything was great. The judge looked at everything, and he ruled in my favor, said the counterclaim was without merit, ordered them to vacate within 7 days. Whispers. I thought finally, this is really it now. 7 days passed, they didn't leave. Back to the sheriff. Another writ of possession, another fee, another wait time for the sheriff to schedule. April 23rd, sheriff showed up again. Kyle opened the door. And this time he said Jennifer was sick, pneumonia, had a doctor's note. And the sheriff said they couldn't evict someone who was medically unable to move. I wanted to scream, wanted to cry. This was insane. But the sheriff left, said I had to wait until she recovered. My lawyer said to give it 2 weeks, then file again, show that she'd had time to recover. 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks of no rent. 2 more weeks of paying all the bills on a property I couldn't use and couldn't access. May 7th, filed again. Another court date. May 28th. May 28th. They didn't show up to court. Judge ruled in my favor again. Another writ of possession. June 12th. Sheriff scheduled to evict. I was there. Wanted to witness it. Wanted to make sure it actually happened this time. Sheriff knocked. No answer. Both cars were gone. Sheriff looked in the windows. House appeared empty. He tried the door. Locked. He called a locksmith. We waited 40 minutes. Locksmith arrived. Changed the locks, and I went inside. The place was destroyed. Completely destroyed. Holes in the walls. Carpet ripped up in places. Kitchen cabinets torn off. Bathroom sink cracked. Every window screen torn. Back fence broken. Graffiti on the garage door. They'd trashed it. Deliberately. Out of spite. Knocked. No answer. Both cars were gone. Sheriff looked in the windows. House appeared empty. He tried the door. Locked. He called a locksmith. We waited 40 minutes. Locksmith arrived. Changed the locks. And I went inside. The place was destroyed. Completely destroyed. Holes in the walls. Carpet ripped up in places. Kitchen cabinets torn off. bathroom sink cracked, every window screen torn, back fence broken, graffiti on the garage door. They'd trashed it, deliberately, out of spite. And they'd left everything: furniture, clothes, trash, garbage everywhere, rotting food. The smell was unbearable. I stood in what used to be my nice rental property, and I cried. Actually cried. I was 77 years old, standing in this disaster, and I couldn't hold it back. The cleanup took 3 weeks. I had to hire people, had to rent a dumpster, 2 dumpsters, had to repair the damage, new carpet, new cabinets, patch walls, paint everything, fix the fence, repair the sink. Total cost, $38,000, plus the locksmith, plus all the legal fees, about $6,000 total, plus 14 months of lost rent, $21,000. Total loss, $65,000, on a property that was supposed to generate $400 a month in income. And the security deposit? $1,500. Didn't even cover the dumpster rental. I tried to sue Kyle and Jennifer. Small claims court. Won a judgment for $45,000, but you can't get blood from a stone. They had no assets, no savings, no way to pay. The judgment was worthless. I re-rented the property in September to a retired couple this time. They've been great. Pay on time, take care of the place, no issues, size, but I'm still recovering from those 14 months, financially and emotionally. I had to take money out of my small retirement to cover the repairs. Money I'd been saving for emergencies, for medical expenses, for end-of-life care. Gone. Spent on cleaning up after tenants who destroyed my property and faced 0 consequences. Because here's what I learned. Tenant rights laws are designed to protect tenants, all tenants, even the ones who stop paying, even the ones who lie to courts, even the ones who deliberately destroy property. And landlords? We have almost no rights, no recourse, no protection. Kyle and Jennifer lived in my property for free for 14 months, trashed it on their way out, and faced no consequences, no criminal charges, no repercussions. They just moved on to their next victim. I heard through the grapevine they rented another house 2 towns over. Lasted about 6 months before getting evicted again. Same pattern. Stop paying, drag out eviction, trash the place on the way out, and there's nothing stopping them. No landlord database, no way to warn other property owners. They just keep doing it. My grandson asked me last year if I'd ever buy another rental property. Said he was thinking about real estate investing. In whispers I told him no, never, not in this state, not with these tenant protection laws, not unless he's willing to risk everything on the hope that he gets good tenants. Because one bad tenant can destroy you, financially, emotionally, completely. I'm 81 years old. I own 1 rental property that I'll never sell because I can't afford the capital gains taxes. But I live in fear every day that something will happen again, that my current tenants will stop paying, that I'll go through another 14 months of hell. I've considered selling it anyway, just taking the tax hit and being done with it, having the cash and not having to worry. But at my age, where would I invest $300,000 that would give me better return than the rental income? So I'm stuck. Stuck with a property I'm afraid of. Stuck with tenants I'm too scared to upset. Stuck with an investment that nearly destroyed me. 14 months of pure stress. 14 months of no income while bleeding money. 14 months of courts and lawyers and lies and destruction. That's the eviction hell nobody tells you about when they talk about real estate investing. They tell you about rental income, about appreciation, about building wealth. They don't tell you about tenants who game the system, about courts that bend over backward to protect people who refuse to pay, about how you can lose everything because someone decides to stop paying rent and you have no recourse for over a year. I learned that lesson at 77 years old. It cost me $65,000 to learn it. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening to an old man who learned that being a landlord isn't passive income. It's risk. Real, devastating risk. And tenant rights mean everything for tenants and nothing for landlords.